This is all on Netflix now, debuted on Friday the 1st of Feb. There are 8 half-hour episodes. This is written and created by Natasha Lyonne, somebody I'd not really had much exposure to prior to this. Amy Poehler is one of the big co-producers on this, and it is basically a woman who's 36 in New York. She attends her birthday party with friends. She's a chain smoker. She's a bit of a drunk, and she's hit by a car out searching for her cat Oatmeal, and then wakes up back at the mirror in the bathroom at the party, and then dies again. I forget if she dies the second time, but she dies again, and it's basically Groundhog Day, but it's so much more than that, with a great deal of depth. I really enjoyed this. I binged it all yesterday. Although I didn't love the first episode, I was intrigued by what the dying and reappearing in the bathroom actually meant, and where it was going, and I didn't see where it was going. I couldn't have predicted the direction it was going in, and I asked Matt and Rob to watch at least the first 2 to get a sense of it. Hindsight, I wish I'd made you watch the first 4, but then Rob would probably hate me now.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Without spoiling it, I think it does have more in common with The Good Place than you'd expect, because it is one of those shows that if I told you certain things about it, then it might spoil your enjoyment of it. So we'll try not to tell you what happens to the post episode 4, because that was a game changer to me. Why didn't you enjoy it?
They lost me about 3 minutes in, where one of them goes, does she know what 9/11 is? And then the other one goes, does anyone? And that started off...
I could see why. The dialogue was a bit sort of...
Yeah, that's
pretentious.
I noticed the dialogue from that point, and I just couldn't stop noticing it. And no one talks like normal people talk. And I couldn't help but just focus entirely on the dialogue. And it wasn't until I got to the end of episode 2, was it episode 2, where the flowers wilt or something like that? And I started to think, oh, there's more going on here, and
there's a lot of depth to it that I don't want to go into.
I watched 2.5 episodes because I just gave up at episode 3. But maybe I should keep going. But the dialogue, just the general interaction between people, felt so unnatural, and it felt like everyone was just saying a line so that someone could say a line back at them. If you see what I mean. If you've ever been to a really pretentious play, it kind of felt like that. And that was where it lost me, because I do love a Groundhog Day scenario, and it does feel like a show with quite a lot of depth, but just that dialogue really put me off from the start, and I had trouble recovering after that.
What about her? Because I hadn't had much exposure to Natasha Lyonne before. Apparently she's had this long career that's just completely passed me by. What did you make of her lead performance?
I've never heard of her either, actually, and yet some people I follow on Twitter seem to have known her forever. She's very good in it, but again, just the dialogue that comes out of her mouth just doesn't feel right. And when I saw Amy Poehler in the credits, I thought, oh, this is going to be right up my street. But it just really fell away from me quick. I think it was probably when the woman was cooking a chicken at a party. was when just the disbelief of that kind of made me go, really? No.
What if she'd have handed her like a glass of ginger ale? Would you have gone, this is more my style?
Yes, absolutely. And if she'd been cooking that chicken over some roasting toilet paper, I would have absolutely believed that.
This is like someone's put my life on a screen.
Because it keeps starting in the bathroom, yet you never see any toilet paper.
Do you not?
Oh, I don't know. I just...
See, now I'm going to look back, Matt, and see if...
I really like this. I think with the dialogue, and specifically the lines you mentioned, I think these people are trying to be pretentious. You know, they're saying these things to seem clever, but they're not. That's how I read it anyway. These are all these sort of arty, downtown New Yorkers who say these things to seem clever, and that's where that's how I saw it. Certainly the secondary characters, her friends who are holding this birthday party. But I really like the character of Nadia. When you peel back the layers, and there's this sort of history of mental health in her family, and this relationship she had with this married man with the daughter. You know, there's a lot of layers to that character as the story goes on. And I found that second episode very funny when she kept dying down the stairs. I was laughing constantly. And there, as you say, when you get to it's the end of episode 3 where they add another dimension to it, don't they?
Yeah. You won't see it coming. It really was like, I had no idea that was going to happen.
It does relate to a character that you do see briefly in the first episode as well.
I've only seen 2.5, and that should I watch it now? Because is it going to get better and better and better?
Episode 4 was, like I say, a game changer for me. That half hour just flew by. I thought it was a really well paced, really well put together, and the fact that it was only 8 then, I thought, well, I'm halfway through, I've got to finish this and see where it goes.
I've watched 6 so far, and that started about 10 o'clock last night, and I'll probably watch the last 2 today. I think they designed the character very well, and she played, you know, I feel like this was a well-rounded character that was believable in this world, and I honestly think Netflix ruined a little bit by saying that it was her dying over and over again, but I suppose you needed that hook.
You need that hook, otherwise how do you sell it otherwise?
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. We'll watch the last 2 today, probably. I think it was funny, I think it was clever, and it was something where, you know, you always say about caring about the characters. I cared about the characters. Yeah. Even though there were some moments that were predictable, you know, you could sort of pinpoint where she was going to die in this scenario. But no, I really liked it.
That second episode had so many deaths in it, and the fact that she was terrified to walk down the stairs by the end of it was so brilliant.
And then subsequently she goes down the fire escape, doesn't she, in all of the subsequent...
And the woman's like, this is a lot safer going down the fire escape. I would hail it, and we're only in February, I would hail it as the first really good show of the year, but it's a shame that you don't feel the same. But in the other sense, it's good to have somebody else's opinion, because otherwise Matt and I would just be telling everybody how much we enjoyed it.
You know what, I'm going to watch the rest of it, and especially as you said around episode 4, because I don't want to be a guy that just goes, oh, that first episode was rubbish, I'm not watching the rest of it.
To be fair, I mean, the first episode I didn't love, but I was just sort of intrigued as to what this meant. You know, the fact that she kept dying, what this actually meant. It had to mean something. It had to be going somewhere. And then I sort of fell in love with it in episode 2, and then by episode 4 I was like, this is something very special.
And I like how the guy who she sleeps with in the first bit becomes he becomes more prominent in it as well, doesn't he? There's characters, sort of secondary characters in the first episode who have a more prominent role as it goes on.
I can't remember the last time I binged the show in one day. I don't particularly do it, but
it was really easy just to keep going with the next episode. And I say, if we hadn't been recording, I would have finished it by now, probably.
Well, I am sorry about that.
So you apology accepted.
So, Russian Doll, love it or hate it, is on Netflix now, all available to stream at your earliest convenience, should you want to.
I mean, it's very similar to The Good Place, isn't it? In that you know, like you got me and Gary at the time to watch the first season entirely, because you know the last episode does have that shock value moment, as does I think the end of the third episode here of.
I kind of wish that you'd just kept going for that third one, Rob, because you may have gone, oh, hang on, there's something more to this.
I mean, in the third episode, she wakes up on a sofa, and then there's a lot of people in an orgy pile asleep, and I just thought, I can't connect to this. I'm in my mid-30s, and I have a mortgage, and I just...
I thought you were going to say, I'm in my mid-30s, and I've never been in an orgy pile.
He didn't deny that, he just said he had a mortgage.